Taylor, we're here today at a recently finished project out at Lake Franklin in Minnesota. And I just wanted to talk through some features, ask you some questions, and I really wanted to dig into, it seems like you have a fantastic relationship with the clients. So if you can maybe tell us and what their experience was on this project, and maybe give prospective clients a look into what their experience might be like and why these clients' experience in particular was just really good, and how they have amazing things to say about you in the process would be, I think, helpful.
Yeah, so, these clients came to us, they had just a kind of like an idea drawn on a napkin. They had come up with an idea of what they want to do here.
Is that pretty common, that we have a napkin sketch?
Not very common, but definitely something that we can work with. Yeah.
A lot of ideas start there.
Yeah.
with a pretty rudimentary idea.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah. So yeah, they had this like a legit napkin. They were at a little coffee shop, had a vision on how to create a space that they could incorporate events and family functions. They're big in hosting family and friends. So
because this isn't their main.
This is not their main house. They have another house, and this is right across the street from their existing house. And so they have a lot of family friends come visit a lot. Wanted another space that they can utilize for those type of events. So again, started with a napkin. They had this vision. We met with them and kind of talked about like how our process works, how we were able to take this napkin sketch and turn it into a building.
And who is involved in the architecture for this build?
So on this one, we used Mabled Studios. They're out of Fargo,
okay,
North Dakota. So we took this napkin, worked with the clients on like kind of understanding their vision, the things they want in this place, what's important to them. Brought that information to the architect, sat with them, worked through the vision, the space, some of the things the clients were really looking for.
Earlier today, we were on site. We were talking with the clients, and there was a couple of stories that I heard that were really interesting. And one of them was right before construction really took off. I think that there were some changes, and I think that people would be interested to know, how does that stuff get handled? Because in construction, as we both know, I mean, things change, and people may have a new idea that they want to implement, and it might be either during construction or right before construction starts. And how do you handle that? How do you handle those changes?
When you have this, you work with these clients, and one thing I think that's really important to our process, when we're working with you, is ultimately the experience that you have. So we love to listen. We love to add value in like what we've done, our experiences, what works, what doesn't work. And in this particular case, we had started this project, developed a spec, an estimate, a plan, and we laid it all out. We thought we had a good gauge on everything. And right before we started actually construction, the clients, we met with them on site, talked about where to position the house in the lot, how they're gonna use this space when it's done. And kind of from those conversations, they were kind of looking at the site later on and came back to me and were like, hey, I know we're about to start, but like we really wanna add another 10 feet to this space. And we listened to like why they wanted to do that, the value that they could add to their project if they did that. So I was like, let me make a couple calls and to see how fast we can turn this around. And we did that, and we're like, all right, let's do it. It seemed like a great idea to extend this whole side of the house another 10 feet. And one thing I think is really important is that we're willing to like work with the client, listen to the client, and we're truly after trying to figure out what your intent is for the space, and we want to do everything we can to make that happen.
And I think one thing, just to even expand a little bit further on on one of the biggest benefits to involving us as builders in the actual, the pre-construction process early and part of the architectural process is the fact that we do have a lot of value, I think, to add, and I think it's actually pretty uncommon that builders are as involved as we are in the pre-construction design process. And we love to be kind of in the trenches with the clients as part of that process, because if there's things that we notice from a constructability standpoint or from a cost standpoint, I mean, we can bring them up before they become an issue. And I think that in your situation, so they wanted to add 10 feet. If we weren't involved in the initial pre-construction process, that change would have taken much longer than if we were, which we in fact were in this case, involved in that process. So I think that's a really big advantage of bringing us in as builders early.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah.
As we were sitting here standing with the clients earlier, it was really evident that one of their favorite pieces of this entire build was this really unique railing system. So if you could tell us about kind of how that process came together and just really how you built this and the features about it, and I think why the clients are ultimately so satisfied with its just really ton of uniqueness.
Yeah, so one cool thing about working with us is that we love to do unique things. We love the challenges. We love to hear the client's ideas, understand their vision, look at kind of their reference photos and what they want this, what they want a particular thing to look like.
Okay.
And in this situation, early on, the clients were telling us how important the railing system was going to be. And they had brought us a reference photo that kind of showed kind of a similar idea on what they want this to look like. But they wanted their own kind of unique design for them.
Sure.
So in this particular case, we worked with the architect, took this reference photo, brought it to them. They ended up designing this layout on a CAD file.
Okay.
We brought that CAD file to our metal fabricator, and he basically took this design that was custom drawn and then 3D printed it onto a sheet of metal that we cut out to make each individual railing run.
Yeah, it's a really unique, one-of-a-kind design for sure.
Yep, absolutely. So, the big takeaway on this is like, it's fun to take like a vision or some sort of concept that you might have, and we love to work with you. We'll bring the right team together, and we can end up creating a one-of-a-kind piece that's unique just for you and in your home.
So Taylor, I want to just talk a little bit about some more unique features about this railing too. So it looks to me that this is a box tread, individual box treads as well as the treads for this staircase, correct? And then what type of metal staircase is this referred to?
Yep. So in this case, the clients were after like an open railing system. They wanted to not close off the space at all. So what we did here was we developed what you would call a spine railing system. This is made up of one metal support beam that's going to have additional supports coming out for each tread. In this case, these were 3-inch elder treads that we had custom made for each individual step.
It's a really cool design, and it I think it adds a ton of it. This is almost like the same conversation that we were having about borrowed light. I mean, because you're not closing off any of the staircase itself, and it almost allows you to see completely through it. I think it makes the space feel so much bigger.
So much bigger, and then also allows you to, all the space you have underneath the stairs would be unusable if this was like closed off, or you might have like a closet or something, but creating an open railing system allows all the space to be more usable.
And then because this spine staircase is built out of steel, whereas if we were to build it out of wood, for example, there'd be so much more deflection, where when you would walk up this staircase, you'd be able to feel a bit of give, let's say, on your way up. But because it is steel, it is so much stiffer.
Yep, and In this case too, we actually worked with a structural engineering company and just really designed this one main metal support beam to allow less deflection as you're walking up the steps. Obviously makes it feel more secure, more stable. It's just one other detail that we look into anytime we're creating something like this.
Sure. And I think something that really uniquely situates us well to do high-end residential construction, due to its complexity, we also work on commercial projects, and a lot of the crossover between structural design of commercial projects relates to high-end residential. So that experience definitely gives us, I think, the upper hand in dealing with situations like this to make sure that this staircase, which clearly it's a beautiful staircase, beautiful things typically are expensive. And we want to make sure that when our clients do something that definitely has a price tag, we want to make sure that not only is it beautiful, but it really functions really well for them. And I think that the crossover of us doing commercial and residential projects, I think really
allows us to bring the right team together, the right people to be able to accomplish those things we're trying to do.
So Taylor, we're upstairs standing next to this really unique railing system that we just talked about. Again, we're out at this custom
house, you can call it.
Yep. And we're out at the lakes in Minnesota, Franklin Lake. And I just wanted to talk through, I think, a little bit of the architectural design. There's a lot of windows in this particular area that we're standing in. So I just kind of want to chat through that. Is that pretty common as part of our process?
That's definitely a very common part. You know, we love working with architects, and the overall design of your project should really take advantage of any of the viewpoints that you can have. Mm-hmm. And so when you're looking at those details and you're working with an architect, and you're working with the client, you know, we'll come out to the site, and in this particular case, there's Lake Franklin in the background. And so we designed this house around, like, where can we get the best views of this lake? Where can we get the best views of the project at its location? So it's a very, very big part of like bringing in that architect, bringing in the client's vision and utilizing the best viewpoints in the area.
So pre-construction, when we were talking with the clients earlier, just mentioned an on-site visit to determine the exact placement and orientation of this house, right? And as we walk around, that you can definitely feel the attention to detail of exactly where this house ended up being placed for just capturing really amazing views around the whole perimeter, really all the way around this home.
Yeah, you know, it's funny, you know, the level of detail or the level of energy we'll put into trying to figure out where to place stuff. In this particular case, back here, there's a deck that has a great view of the lake. And pre-construction, early on, we're out here trying to figure out where to place this house. I mean, we even brought a ladder to the site, climbed up on the ladder, tried to see where we'd be sitting on this deck when it was done. I mean, we'll take as far as we need to go to figure out to take advantage of the best views.
Cool. So I had a chance to meet your clients. They seem like overall, I mean, not only are they great people, but I think they're extremely pleased, and you guys seem like you've become friends. Yeah. Almost. Yeah. I mean, do you want to talk a little bit about that? Because I think that only happens if the building process itself goes really smooth. Because if it doesn't go smoothly, I don't think that feeling would be. I don't think I'd be able to feel that feeling just meeting your clients really for the first time.
Yeah, you know, again, we've said this before, but for us, like the experience that the client has is super important to us. I mean, that's like one of the main things we're after anytime we're working with somebody. So that whole process starts early on. You develop that relationship with the client, and you're truly wanting to just learn to work together, and you become friends almost in this process. And I do find personally, I find that enjoyable. I think from like our company and the way we like to run our business, we think it's important to have great relationships with these clients. And we end up spending a lot of time together. So you have to kind of learn how to work with them and truly listen to like what they're after, and kind of be that support from the building side and from like the overall project side and how we can bring this together. And I think if you do a good job at that, you'll tend to create these relationships that will last even after the project's completed. Yeah.
I think that it's interesting that we build over a pretty wide geographical area. I think, but an area that we definitely excel in is, I mean, we have a lot of built-in communication, not only from us as owners, but then we have project managers who are really good communicators. We have project management software that allows us to keep in contact with our clients and also give them weekly updates. Then also the trust and transparency, I think, that we sell ourselves on, I think really comes to fruition during the project.
For sure. I mean, you guys will hear us talk about the word transparency a lot. And it's something that we've created our whole building process around this word transparency. And that starts early on, pre-construction, before we ever sign a building contract. You know, when you're doing a project, prior to starting, you're going to develop specs and an estimate. Mm-hmm. And during creating those specs, we work with the client, figure out what they're actually looking for. We build our whole spec sheet around the selections, and the finishes are built around what the clients are actually after.
And how do you get that information?
So there's a number of ways we do that. Our main driver of information is we'll send the client a detailed questionnaire.
Okay.
It'll ask them a bunch of the questions that maybe they haven't thought about, but more importantly, the information that we need to know as a builder on, you know, what level of detail do they want in this project? What are the things that are most important to them? Really getting a good feel for what they're after.
So that when we actually put together the specifications and the estimate for their project, we're bidding exactly what our customers are expecting. So there's no gap in, when we present pricing, there's never any misunderstanding in terms of what we've been asked to price and what we've actually priced. And then at that point, if we do need to go back to the drawing board because we're involved in the architectural process, well, I mean, we're heavily involved in both. So it allows us to help then drive that project quicker to get to a point where not only architecturally and from a design perspective, but also from the specifications and the pricing side, to really bring all those different facets of the project together.
Yeah, you know, when you build a project, you're gonna have a number of allowances, right? And if you don't have something like tied to that or something that equates, like, how'd you come up with this number? You know, you don't want this number out there that's a generic number. Nobody knows what it represents. So we really want to kind of figure out what the client's looking for, build that allowance around that number, so that when we go to price it out and create this estimate, we actually are showing what's figured in here. Everybody's on the same page. And then that ends up correlating over to when we actually build the house. Mm-hmm. It's like once we get in the building process, again, we go back to transparency. So we get in this building process and we have a really cool software called Resio. It's a project management software. It basically allows the transfer or the access of information between builder, client, designer. All the things are getting picked out. The client has it right on their hands. They can access it through their phone, through their computer, but it gives a client an update on like what's going on, so they understand where the initial estimate was, where our current project cost is, and what the projected cost is going to be. And then again, that word transparency keeps going when it comes time to send out draws or billings for a project. So every month we'll send a draw to a client that kind of outlines, you know, an invoice on everything that was done in the last month or so.
Yep.
But not only that, the clients get access to each invoice that is on that draw. So throughout the whole project, the client has the access to all this information. And we really believe that being transparent, allowing the client to see this information, creates that trust, creates that relationship, and ultimately turns our projects into exactly what everybody wants them to be.
And I think it really leads to a much better client experience. But because we provide all that information to our clients, I think it really reduces questions about finances. Once projects are over, there's not very many financial questions that come up because we are so transparent. So the difficult conversations that I think sometimes get had as part of construction projects, we tend to not need to have them because we do provide our clients with so much information during construction. And when we also pair that with asking the right questions pre-construction, for example, if you want all of your appliances to be Wolf appliances, for example, I mean, those are the type of things that we're going to put in your home. We're going to ask you questions about what cabinetry goes in your master bathroom. What cabinetry would you like for us to provide in the kitchen, and provide reference images so that when we're pricing those items, we're actually having accurate pricing. Now, during construction, that can certainly change as a client. If you want to make changes to that, that's great. But at least initially, we don't have any generic allowances that are unrealistic. So I think that just all those things combined, I think really give the clients a really wonderful client experience and interaction with us. And even if something does change during construction and something does come up, which can happen
all the time,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that our process, even if something comes up that maybe is unfortunate, and maybe it's a conversation that we would rather not have with clients. I think what's really awesome about our process is that because it is so financially transparent, if something does come up, we have to talk about it. We can't avoid having that conversation. So I think that we've intentionally backed ourselves into a corner to, that transparency is part of who we are at our core. And I think that for clients, they should be able to rest easily that even if something does come up, we address it as early as we can so that everybody stays in the loop.
We just found out that being transparent helps you come out with the best solution. I mean, you talked about that in estimating when, say, like the estimate comes back and it's over budget, over the investment that the client wants to put into the project. Being transparent, being able to show the client the numbers, what's driving the cost, where are these changes coming from, allows you to have those good conversations to come up with the solutions. Mm-hmm. Whether that's making a change, cutting back here, and we have the same thing happen like during the building process. We'll come across something, we bring it, the clients have access to like what's going on, allows us to come up with a solution that you might not be able to come up with if you don't have that transparency or that trust built with the client.
So we'll switch gears a little bit. We'll switch back to the selection process. So one really unique feature I think about this area too, I mean, above and beyond the windows and the vaulted 2-story space is the ceiling. So it sounds like there's a little bit of a story behind that. So if you want to tell that, I think that'd be great.
This ceiling, obviously look at this ceiling, you can't miss it. It looks beautiful. So what we did here was we worked with a local wood supplier in Fargo called Dakota Timber. They had this product that they basically took, the city had taken down some trees in the boulevard, whether they're not using those type of trees anymore, or just they were old and getting rid of. But instead of just getting rid of all those trees, they took that wood, created this like palette of 4 different wood species that are all staying the same, but because they're different wood species, you get kind of a variance of colors. So we ended up buying this material, and then installed on the ceiling here. It turned out really cool. Just kind of adds a unique detail, kind of like a one-of-a-kind type deal again, because you have such a good mix of different wood species.
Yeah. And I think what's really cool too is that, I mean, your main wood color throughout this main area is all a darker alder. But then you have a much lighter ceiling, which I think helps to, if it was darker, I think it would really bring the ceiling down, make it feel heavier, but because it is so light, it gives it just an incredible aesthetic without bringing that ceiling down. So I love what you and the design team came together with in this space, and I think it really made for a super unique project. I think a really interesting feature in this shop house build is the wet room. So if you just want to tell us a little bit about your client interaction, how this all came to be. It sounded like this was another area, maybe there were some changes that were made at the last minute to really incorporate this room. If you just want to, we'll head in there, and if you want to tell us just a little bit more about this space and how it all came to be.
Yeah, so this is another great example of the original plan always had a bathroom in this area, but during construction, as the space was getting developed, clients came to us with another vision on how to incorporate this shower into like an actual wet room.
Okay.
So what we did was we actually extended the backside of this out into the shop space. We actually added a window here, which captured a ton of natural light from the windows in the shop space, and kind of created a room, a wet room that has, your tub, you have your shower, and turned out to be a really, really cool space.
I love the clawfoot tub in here. It seems like the wet room feature is something that we're definitely incorporating into a lot more of our builds.
Yeah, we see it more and more. I feel like every year it's something that we ask the clients about more now than we have before. It's something that we'll actually try to figure out how to incorporate that into the master bathroom or into another area of the home that they're looking to have one.
And I think what's really cool about the wet room too is just that it does really save space. I mean, instead of having to have a designated space for a standalone tub, being able to put it inside the shower area, I think adds a lot of
it gives you more room to work with on plan layout, plan design. Oftentimes you're working with a certain parameter that you can't quite figure out how to get that tub in the right spot, how to get that shower in the right spot and still keep the size of the shower the way you want it. So bringing both those features together in the same room definitely gives you more options to lay out the space.
Mm-hmm. And then if you are, for example, taking a bath and water does end up getting out of the tub, or for whatever reason, I mean, because this is an entirely tiled area, there's no concern of leaking or anything like that. So
for sure. And the way we construct these, we use a Schluter system that allows that if there was ever any water that penetrated through the tile or somehow found a way through, the system is all designed to capture that water, prevent anything from occurring that you can't see. So they're definitely designed with the intent to keep water where it needs to be.
Awesome. We're here today at a project that we just built in Lake Franklin in Minnesota. I want to talk specifically about how the orientation of this house ended up with the most amazing view of Lake Franklin.
So early on, when we're meeting with clients, looking at the project, the house, the house, whatever we're building for them and where it's going, we like to meet on site, talk to the clients about what type of views are they after on the property.
And what's important to them, really.
What's important and how to take advantage of those views. So in this particular house, we knew that we wanted to capture some views of the lake from this deck.
Okay.
So this was a spot where when we were laying out the house, we purposely went to this area. We even brought a ladder out here, like I told you about earlier. We walked up the ladder and tried to get a good feel of like when this is done, like where are you actually in this whole space? And that really helped us allowed us to capture the view that you have.
So how cool is that? So during that initial walkthrough, once the plans were done, so you brought the clients out here and you had a ladder on site so that they could crawl up and actually get a view of what they would be looking at from this level.
That's correct, yep. And part of that too is just talking about like, what do they want to use this space for? And this was an area that they could sit here with friends or family, drink some coffee looking at that lake. And we really wanted to focus on how to bring that vision and that how you're going to actually use this in the end and make sure that we're taking advantage of that.
Oh, it looks like you completed your mission.
Yeah, thank you.